What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Screen This Big Brother 17 episode 22, brought to you by Morty's TV. Head on over to mortystv.com/bb for a live feed summary, and you can get real-time live feed updates at facebook.com/mortystv and on Twitter @mortystv. My name is Chris, and I'm ready to talk about Big Brother like usual. Tonight, double eviction. In my opinion, it was a pretty good episode, but at the end, I was following on Facebook and Twitter and seeing how people were reacting, and a lot of people thought it was the worst double eviction, but you know what? I find it always entertaining when they jam-pack a week's worth into one episode, and regardless of who wins and stuff like that, yeah, we always want to see like big moves and things like that, but it is what it is. So anyway, the episode kicks off with Vanessa wanting to know what Becky meant by her words. And she brings up the deal that they made in the HOH room last week where they all decided, hey, let's not nominate any one of us in this room. And Becky was like, well, she didn't really say that I didn't agree to it, or she basically just said, you pointed your finger right at me and was like, deal, and it was kind of like forced upon, and Becky didn't put it yourself in Becky's shoes, where it's like, well, I'm sitting with a group of people. I think there was like 6 of them in there. Like, how would it feel? You would screw over your own game by being like Vanessa's telling you, all right, deal, and then Becky's like, no. Because then everyone else is going to be like, whoa, what the hell, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So she was technically forced into that deal. And clearly she drew the line in the sand by putting up Vanessa and saying, like, hey, I wasn't part of that deal, and that's just the way it is. Like, we're not going to work together. And Becky just kind of walks away because Vanessa she brings up the whole point that she's loyal, my word, this and that. So Becky was like, you know what, I'm just going to end the conversation here, and that's it. And she walks away. And then Vanessa, typical Vanessa fashion, she acts like she's crying, but there's no tears, saying that she's really rude and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm still a Vanessa fan. It's just, I'm really getting tired of her acting like she's crying when I see absolutely no tears. Then Vanessa sees Steve and she asks him if he's going to vote Shelli out, and he says he doesn't know because he feels like Vanessa's gone, so he wants to vote with the house. Of course, we see this every single freaking week, pretty much, and it's always how the house wants to vote. And Steve, of course, doesn't want to burn any bridges, so therefore, if Vanessa's the one that's going to be gone for sure, then Steve is going to vote against her. He's going to vote to evict her. Then we see Vanessa campaigning to James, and she throws Becky under the bus. And she tells James that when Clay and Shelli were in the house last week, that Becky was gathering the information from James, Jackie, and Meg and bringing it to Clay and Shelli. And of course, James is concerned about this, and then he goes and talks to Meg and Jackie, and he was like, and he tells us in a diary room session that he knew there was a rat last week, and now it seems like it is Becky. And so they kind of go back and forth saying like, oh, if we vote Shelli out, then, she's not going to come after me, which is me as in James, because, well, she's gone, right? But then if they vote out Vanessa, Shelli's still in the house, and Shelli might get revenge for Clay, and she'll go after James. So, Julie announces the double eviction to the house guests, and the house guests go down to vote, and it's a clean sweep, per usual, but it's actually Shelli that's gone home. What a turn of events. At the beginning of the week, it seemed like it was Vanessa, that's it, this is the only plan, that's just the way it's going to be, that was Becky's plan, and all of a sudden, Shelli's the one that's evicted. John was actually I don't know if it was all an act, but I don't think it was. I don't know why he would act like that. But he came in, he's like, yeah, what do you want? And then everyone's kind of laughing in the crowd, and Julie's like, okay, who do you choose to evict? And he's like, I vote to evict Shelli. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And I was like, holy, like what's up his ass? But I guess at the end of the day, it's the house decided, hey, let's go after Shelli, but he wanted Vanessa out, so he's probably pissed at, he's probably pissed specifically at James, Meg, and Jackie, because those are the three that they should be working together. They should be on Becky's side, and they were going to go after Vanessa, and all of a sudden, and John wants Vanessa out, and all of a sudden they're like, let's go after Shelli instead. So I can understand why John's pissed. And it looks like Shelli did expect it, because when Julie was like, by a vote of 8-0, Shelli's like kind of nodding her head, and she already knows. So yeah, so Shelli's gone. She's the first juror, and then we go straight to the HOH competition. Early in the day, house guests were shown 16 video loops of things that have happened in the house so far. So it's a true or false competition. I'll give you the final three, which was Austin, Steve, and John. Three very unlikely people there. Well, at least I think so. Maybe not Steve or John. They're both pretty smart. Austin, I guess, was pretty surprising. But anyway, the winner, HOH, is Steve. Who would have thought? This guy, he's on a roll. He won the POV in last night's episode, and now he's just won HOH. So, who are his nominees? I have no idea. I'm watching this episode and I'm thinking, who is Steve going to nominate? Yeah, there's been talks of him wanting to go after Becky, but is he A, going to put Becky up right away? B, does he want to backdoor her? Or C, is he just going to let it slide and it was all talk? So what ends up happening is Steve nominates Meg and Jackie. Okay. So at this point in the episode, I'm thinking, okay, it looks like a backdoor plan is coming in place for Becky. So then John, James, and Vanessa were picked for the power of veto. And it's the typical double eviction POV competition where like there's this table and you gotta, lean it left, right, lift it up, move it down, and you gotta balance this ball. And there's 1, 2, 3, and you gotta get a ball in first in the number 1 hole, then the number 2 hole, then the number 3 hole, and then you go hit the buzzer. And I'm actually kind of not surprised this hasn't happened a lot more. I don't remember the last time this has happened, but Steve's table actually got kind of jammed, and he actually couldn't move his table. So unfortunately for him, there was no way he was winning this competition, and the winner of the veto is none other than Johnny Mac. So now what's going to happen, right? Like, John and Becky are working together, so again, we don't know what Steve's plan is. And what happens after the veto competition is we get a shot of Steve and John talking in a room, but we don't hear much, and all we hear is John say, all right, and he's nodding his head. So at that point, it seems like he's in agreement to what Steve wants. What does Steve want? We don't know. It's either the nominations stay the same or he's trying to backdoor Becky. So, come back from commercial break, and John decides not to use the power of veto. Wow. I don't know what to say. I honestly thought there was a backdoor plan in place. John says that he doesn't know who the replacement nominee is, so that's why he didn't use it. Again, I'm not sure if that's true. Maybe John knows that Steve doesn't like Becky, so then John was worried, like Steve might have been like, oh yeah, use the veto, and I'm going to nominate so-and-so, like whoever, Vanessa, let's say. But then maybe John knows that Steve doesn't like Becky, so he didn't want to take that chance, and he'd rather just see Meg or Jackie go home. I have no idea. Maybe Steve did tell, like, who knows? Maybe Steve did tell John that he's going to put up Becky, and then John was, like, agreeing with him, kind of like, yeah, whatever, and then he was like, okay, because maybe Steve doesn't know that John and Becky are close, and then when the veto ceremony happened, then John was maybe like, yeah, that's not happening, I don't want Becky to go home, she's my ally, so forget it, I'm not using the veto. You know what, I just hope we get a lot of answers on Sunday. Before the commercial break, we see Meg and Jackie wanting an explanation as to why they were nominated by Steve. And Steve's like, yeah, I'll give you guys an explanation. He's like, I'm not coherent right now to talk to you guys. And I was like, what? Like, what is wrong with you? So anyway, then we come back from commercial break. Meg and Jackie have their speeches. Jackie's speech says, she's basically saying goodbye. Like, it looks like she already knows she's gone. So it looks like it was already determined over the commercial break. And she's basically saying goodbye. And at the end of her speech, she says it was a miscommunication. Now, I'm kind of wondering, the way, like, how Steve gets all paranoid and crazy and stresses out and everything like that. Did, by any chance, this would be crazy if this actually happened, but did Steve mean to say Becky instead of Jackie? And then, like, the pressure and, like, it just came out as Jackie? I mean, I don't know if we can rule that out completely, knowing how Steve reacts to things. But it was, Jackie's comment is really interesting. Anyway, but before we get into that comment a little later, because Julie Chen does ask Jackie, which, of course, I have just spilled the beans, but you know what, I already mentioned that Jackie's speech, she was already saying goodbye, and by a vote of 6-1, Jackie has been evicted, and that's the way she goes. So Julie does ask Jackie what happened, what does she mean by miscommunication, and basically what she said was, when Jackie was HOH, Steve heard that she was going to backdoor him, or she wanted to backdoor him, but at the end of the day, she wanted to backdoor Austin, and Austin knows that, and everyone else in the house knows that, so she doesn't know where Steve got his information. And, when Jackie was leaving, Steve was, like, really, like, his head was down, he was really depressed, and he was like, when Jackie was giving everyone hugs, Steve was like, can I still please get a hug? I'm sorry. And Jackie's like, yeah, of course. Jackie took it. She accepted it. She ran with it. And there was no, she didn't hate anyone for it or anything like that. And you know what? At the end of the day, Julie continued to mention that just because you're out of the house doesn't mean you're out of the game. So it does seem like one of the jurors will come back into the game. We saw it last season. And I guess what's interesting is I did read somewhere that I read it on Morty's, and I don't recall. I might have fast forwarded through the episode and missed this part, but I read it on Morty's TV, and it was saying that it's going to be a battle between the first 4 jurors. I don't remember Julie saying it was 4. But maybe she did, and I just fast forwarded through the whole thing. It could be 3, it could be 5. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Morty's and Morty's TV. So, and of course Morty, who's the guy running the website, I believe him. So it looks like it's going to be the first 4 jurors that are going to battle for a spot back in the house. At this point, I'm hoping Shelli comes back in, because I didn't really get much of a game. Like, Jackie started to play the game a bit more, but she seemed like always agreeing to what, Meg wanted or what James wanted, and I didn't really get much from her, whereas Shelli, I know she can win comps, and, it felt like she wanted to do moves, she wanted to make big moves and whatnot. But yeah, so at the end of the episode, everyone's kind of scattered around, talking amongst themselves, and the episode ends with Steve talking to himself, by himself, in a room, and that's just the way the episode ends. Can't say I'm surprised. Of course, he's talking to himself, kind of like stressed out. He's like, I don't know what I just did, kind of thing. But hey, that wraps up episode 22. It was, I enjoyed it for what it's worth. And yeah, sure, I probably wanted to see a bigger threat than Jackie go home. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, whether you like it or not. So until next time, I'm Chris, and I'm out.